Well, we've already talked to our next guest already this week, but that was outside a windy sea terminal. We've now got him on the Skype system, and he's fresh out of a Timble sitting. And Minister Baker, Infrastructure, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Paul.
Well, you kind of alluded there was going to be lots of things coming up, and I've brought you back today. Thanks for coming back. Is the big news, I suppose, is about the prom. We've also got the water situation and Lord Street. So should we start with the promenade and this amazing one-way system and the closures and now putting in roundabouts instead of roundels and so on?
Yeah.
Over to you. I mean, can you take us through it?
Okay. Yeah. Well, the big picture, Paul, is that we've got a job to do on the prom, and it's very simple. We've got to get the prom done by the end of March next year. That's what I said to you on Wednesday when we spoke outside the sea terminal. Now, to do that, we've had to make some changes, and there's really three elements to that. One is to take some work out of the original main contract. The second is to do some minor design changes, and to also deploy some in-house resources to work alongside the contractor. And then the final element is to reduce the constraints that the contractor was having to operate under. So the contract was originally very restrictive. It was about balancing the needs of the contractor with the needs of the residents, the car drivers, visitors, etc., in a way which made it very difficult for progress to be made quickly. What we've done now is looked at those constraints and said, okay, what can we do to give us a better chance of delivering this project? And it's fundamental to get it done, to get off the prom by the end of March, and to allow those who live and work and run businesses on the prom to have a great summer season in 2021. So in short, we're putting in a one-way system which eases the constraints for the contractor, allows them to open up bigger areas to work on, improves their efficiency, and just gives them a much better chance of delivering the outcome that we all want. Alongside that, there's some changes that were announced around the working hours and how some of the effectively work packets were going to be delivered. So it's a pragmatic response to get the job done.
Yeah, but you're changing the whole contract. I mean, surely that takes a long process. You're putting your own people in there. I think you said at the beginning. You've also, not putting the rails down, and we know about that, but changing some very fundamental infrastructure itself. These roundabouts. Can that be done without going back and reassessing the contract then?
So there's a contractual conversation with the contractor Aldin, and we've been working with them. Those are still ongoing, but there's sufficient clarity around how we're moving forward that everybody's happy with. It's about putting the needs of the people of the island first, and then working out how are we best collectively going to deliver that. Really good positive relationship with the contractor, with the other organisations who are part of the scheme. With my Manx Utilities hat on, Manx Utilities are a key part of the prom scheme as well, and as are some of the other utility providers. It's about focusing and thinking differently with a clear priority to get the job done by the end of next March. And you've said about the horse tram. We're completely committed. Reinforce that to getting that done as well. It's just that's going to be done in a separate delivery period over the following winter.
Okay, well, I mean, the contract had stipulations. I mean, if they were delayed, they got penalised. If they did it early, they got rewarded. Surely, I mean, you're putting your own people in there now as well. This thing is completely a whole new setup. That's what I'm just trying to get to, is how can this be done so quickly when the original contract must have taken a long time to come up with? I mean, who's paying more in the end? Will they walk away with a bonus or with penalties or nothing at all?
Well, I mean, the whole contractual situation is quite an interesting subject, because you play into it the whole COVID situation as well, and of course that was something that nobody had ever envisaged. There was going to be additional costs because of that anyway. What we're doing here is taking a pragmatic response and saying, okay, how do we achieve the objective? There's obviously going to have to be some full transparency around the financial outcomes at the end of the project, but we're confident we can deliver it, and we're confident that this is a financially sensible way forward.
Okay, tell us about this great one-way scheme. I mean, it's going to be all right if you're coming from up at the Victoria Street, isn't it? You're coming all the way down towards Summerland and such. That's the way it's going to be going, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. The traffic's going to flow northbound up the prom. So obviously, those who wish to travel southbound are going to have to use diversionary routes. That's all been planned by the highways team. They've looked at compensatory actions around things like traffic light settings, etc. In the areas of Douglas. So they've modelled the traffic flow, and we'll try and mitigate the impact as much as possible. I think my experience says people get used to these things, and that the Manx public are very intelligent. They'll find ways through all this. Traffic,
as long as those traffic lights do get sorted, because it's one of the banes of my life is when you sit there waiting forever, and there's trip pads involved, and they don't trip, and you sit there waiting. I mean, things like that. That's the department needs to deliver on that sort of thing, and we need to make sure that if there are any glitches, that we react quickly and just fix them. But it's been thought through. It makes a big difference to the contractor's chances of delivering what we want. So it's in the best interest of the island as a whole. And the other point, Paul, we need to remember is we've got relatively light traffic at the moment as a result of the COVID situation. People have got used to working at home. Discretionary trips have been reduced. So this is as good a time as any. And the key message is this will be done over the summer. And by the time the children go back to school in September, the one-way system will have been removed. Okay. Now you decided against opening up the walkway to traffic again. You're saying that's going to be used for emergency services and obviously for the public to enjoy. That is going to make an interesting situation for these retailers in town who are trying to get up and running again. When obviously, and it's not your thing about charging in car parks. And I understand that's the normal norm, but we're in a different world now. Are you comfortable that you don't need to attract more people into town?
Well, no, we do need to attract more people into town. We need to be working with the businesses, and we need to be working very importantly with Douglas Borough Council. I mean, a lot of the parking is their parking. It was their decision to revert to the normal charging basis very recently. I think it was earlier this week. Ultimately it's their town. I'd be looking for them to be supporting the businesses that are based here, and for us to work very closely with them to deliver the best outcome we possibly can. And I think the promenade walkway is a very important facility for the people of Douglas and for the island as a whole, and we're trying to preserve that for
the dilemma was you gave free parking there again before your time or your tenure, but of course free parking took away people spending money in the car parks. So Douglas Corporation didn't like that particularly, and we're looking for redress at one stage. Are you working with them on this? That you actually keeping the promenade closed so people will use the car parks and make money? Then is that part of it, or
no?
You come across this independently?
No, we are working with Douglas Borough Council and looking to make the best decisions together that we can. But the fundamental requirement is to get the promenade done, so that this isn't some Machiavellian plot to drive car park income. This is about getting the prom done. And the message that I've said very clearly to the Chief Executive DOI and the whole team that's engaged in this is 31st of March, that's the date. Get it done.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk to you much more often. That's the plan, and we can talk about any snags and things, and people have a chance, just like we talked with David Ashford. I'm hoping we can do regular updates with you so people can have their input. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Yeah. Now, let's talk about Lord Street. I've got an interview going out in the morning, which we're hearing from the Green Party that they're they're unhappy that it's gone back to 2A, although I've had a look at today, and it does seem like 9 months worth of work. You wouldn't think it when you look at it, but it is very nice. Why 2A? Because it was always going to be 2A again, right?
The original, I think what happened was that people enjoyed the temporary arrangements and thought that actually that would be quite a good arrangement going forward. And I understand that. Equally, when you put something like that in, it has a knock-on effect. I mean, it's we just talked about the prom going one way, and it was never intended to be a permanent thing. And of course, we actually look at the slightly bigger picture here, and if we'd have left the Lord Street one way going southbound and had the prom one way going northbound, then I think people would quite rightly have said, well, hang on, what's going on here? This hasn't been thought through properly. So we've just reverted the Lord Street situation back to two-way, and it's it can be looked at in due course, but it's a bit like the discussion about emergency regs. It's not right to just leave something in place for the long term. You need to have a considered discussion about it, and so we've just put it back. Yes, it has attracted criticism, and I actually saw Andrew Bentley earlier today, and I understand his concerns. But
the fumes and the toxic levels are very big on his agenda as well, because when they've done the testing there, they've been very high levels, and there's flats and people living around there with lots of children and so on. He was concerned. Yeah,
and I understand that concern. He's acting for his constituents in his ward in Douglas, and that's exactly what he should do. I mean, I would point out that if the general level of traffic is reduced because of business activities, and we're hearing lots of people saying that they're going to continue working from home, even if it's not a full-time basis. So actually, that's going to help the air quality. But it's something we want to stay close with. I'm certainly not ruling out looking at this again longer term, but right here, right now, it was the right decision to put it back.
To end with, can we just talk, well, you still got the MUA under you, and the situation with our water. I mean, 75% of is where the dams are at the minute, the reservoirs. We took the shots up there the other day at Solby, and here we are. If it had our usual amount of visitors, all flushing loose even more, we would be more in a situation. How are we? Are you comfortable that you brought this in very early? Because I think we're probably the first person in the British Isles to have a water ban, as far as I can see. But where are we going before you give up this tenure on the MUA?
Well, I mean, it was clear to me that we had a problem, and there have been lessons learned from 2 years ago when clearly everybody remembers the drought situation. Our water stocks are significantly less than they were at the equivalent point in that drought, and we have taken a number of actions in the background prior to now, in accordance with the drought planning mechanism that the MU put in on the back of the previous drought. But it was quite clear that given the medium-term forecast for quite a dry and warm summer, there's quite a lot of risk to our water stocks, and we took the decision to act early and to act in two ways. One was to reduce what's called compensation flows, which is the water released from the reservoirs into the river and stream network, and that's important for the natural environment for the island, particularly the fish stocks, and that's regulated by DEFRA. But in combination with that, we also felt it was right to step in now and to put in what we call a temporary use ban or a hosepipe ban, believing that the people of the Isle of Man have shown that they accept the need for firm and decisive action and on the COVID situation, and that they would react the same way here. The risk, of course, was that we failed to act and then repented in due course, and when we found that the water levels were significantly challenged, and then had to have more extreme actions quicker in due course. So in simple terms, we're preserving the water now to give us more stock in anticipation of continued dry weather, and it'd be lovely to think that actually the situation corrects itself and there's no need for further measures in due course, but there's certainly no guarantee of that at this stage.
How does that leave like car washes and things? Are they off the agenda now already then, when this comes in?
If it involves using a hosepipe,
I mean, a car wash, one of those commercial ones, are they going to be allowed, or do you know?
To be honest, as the chairman, that's a level of detail that I don't.
Okay.
That I don't.
And what's next then? Would we have a bath ban, or how do you take it to the next level if we don't get any rain?
Well, the further actions could include reduction of pressure into the system. They could include further usage restrictions on households in due course. But for now, we're not proposing bringing those in, but they are steps that we could further take. But by acting now and acting decisively, and trusting the Manx people to respond positively to this, as they have done to the COVID situation, we believe that this is the right step at the right time.
It just seems quite strange after October having so much water that we're now in this situation. But how much rain? Is there some generalisation? You need 3 or 4 weeks worth of really good rain to get us back on track, or are we going to have to wait through until the usual September, October, and on into winter?
Well, I mean, people with far greater scientific expertise than I have on this would be better qualified to answer. But from my point of view, we do need some good, consistent rain, and it needs to be not the sort of rain that sort of comes down in torrents and then washes off, which we're tending to see more extreme weather patterns, and it's got to be linked to the climatic change. The best sort of rain for us is good, steady, regular rain that will, it'll wet the ground, and it'll then feed through into the network.
I understand. It just seems quite strange that we've gone. The whole situation, and obviously the Laxey floods. We talk about that sometime in the interview about the report. But I mean, seriously, it's like, do we need better dams or more reservoirs or more protection for these sort of highs and lows?
Well, it's a very interesting and pertinent point, Paul. And I think having been in Manx Utilities for 2 weeks and 3 days since I was formally appointed by Tynwald as the chair, having gone in with a fresh perspective. And had some really good quality conversations with the chief exec and the board, it's quite clear to me that actually we need to be very mindful of our water infrastructure on the island going forward. If we are going to get drier, warmer summers and more erratic weather patterns, the challenges of making sure that our water system is what we need to be become much more significant. And I think my initial perspective is that there may be some investment requirements to go in there and give us a more resilient infrastructure. And I think one of the things that we've seen with the COVID situation is it's all about security and resilience, and those are long-term investment decisions that need to be made. So in short, there is some additional investment that's going to be required over the medium term, whether it's an additional reservoir or whether it's something like a desalination plant, as I understand they have in Jersey, and certainly I'm aware in some Mediterranean countries that's quite a common practice. That may be something we need to do. We may need more investment into our pipe network around the island, where we do have some quite significant challenges around the age of that and the topography of the island as well. And bizarrely, in the drier weather, the amount of leaks you get increase because the movement in the ground makes that happen. I'm advised. So we've got some real challenges, and I think we have to, as an island, be investing for the long term, and doing that in the things that we need. So some tough decisions to be made in my view, but we need to create the island that we want for the long term.